Hi, welcome back to NETSOL Podcast. I'm your host today, Wasinee, Field Marketing Manager for APAC. Today's guest expert is returning, Farooq Ghauri, or known as FG. Farooq is head of APAC at NETSOL. In today's session, he's going to cover about knowledge continuity during staff transitions. So Farooq, hi, would you be able to explain today like a short definition about knowledge continuity, please?
Hi, Wasinee. It's firstly good to be back. Yes, Wasinee, knowledge continuity is another very, very key area, and this also has many different dimensions. So one level of knowledge continuity is when a team member is changed from a customer or a vendor. What happens to that knowledge? Another knowledge continuity is where your business is changing and how that continuation and how that knowledge of a strategy changing from 5 years to 10 years and so on is in place. So knowledge continuity has different dimensions and we'll explore them in detail today.
I can imagine like in a multi-year asset finance project, it's like really common for staff to rotate, like perhaps a business analyst leaves or a new developer joins the team halfway. So what do you think is a big risk of this loss of knowledge, and what does it mean for the project?
That's a great question, and you've actually given me an indicator of how I should answer it. But what typically happens is, when these 3-5 year projects, nobody will stay for the whole project, or most people will not, right? And that's what you have to plan for. And a lot of times, in the worst case scenarios, what we've seen is that our first podcast where the team wasn't right-sized, so you have less people in the first place, and then those people from either the company or the vendor are being changed or replaced. So now not only have you got the wrong size, but you've also got a big gap of every time somebody new comes on board, you have to start again. And that starting again in a 5-year or 3-year project will make it a 5, 10, 15-year project. So it is very critical to understand the risk of continuity and then how to address the different dimensions of risk on your internal side as a finance company, as well as your vendors and others.
Yeah, it sounds like the stakes are high. What are the strategies you use to ensure that when someone leaves, the know-how isn't lost? And are there any best practices you follow here at NETSOL?
There are different strategies that we have in place. First one is shadowing and mentoring. Every resource has a backup resource. Now, they are not assigned the full 8 hours. They're obviously assigned a little bit of the time. So if the main resource needs to leave, needs to change, the shadow or the second resource comes into play. So the 2,000, 1,800 resources we have, everybody in a way is a backup or a shadow for another resource with the same skill set. The second area, which I think is even more critical, is proper documentation. A lot of times we have these great conversation on WhatsApp groups and different areas, but it's not formalized, it's not put into proper documentation. I have seen big 10, 15-year projects only succeed because of documentation. Management changes, IT changes, business user changes. But with solid documentation from your requirements to where you're headed to what's going on with regulations, to how your users are performing, to what they know, is very, very critical. And then on top of that is also the sharing of knowledge. So one of the little things that we do is we'll have other team members present areas of other team members, right? So now, you're a little uncomfortable doing it, but what that instills is you are knowledgeable about what's happening in their world and how maybe you can help as well. So there are certain things that we have in play that help with this critical area.
Yeah, I think those are great practices, especially the last one, sharing knowledge to each other so other people in the team know what you're working on. And could you give an example of knowledge continuity in action from a project that you worked on?
So I'll refer to the same project from our first time together, and this was an equipment manufacturer, captive finance company in Australia. And once again, the project was split over 2 countries, split over 4 to 5 products. What we started off was to be cost effective. The first phase of our projects are the discovery or the design phase. We did the design phase for the 2 countries together as there was overlap in requirements. And we also did certain other activities as overlaps. Now, once those overlap happened, now we had the whole design for the 2 different projects. Australia had its own phases, New Zealand has its own phases, and using what was documented and what was created in the design phase, even though people changed, even though certain things happened, we were able to deliver successfully on time with the complexities there. So it's key to make sure on that continuity and knowledge sharing.
Are there any tools that you are using or you recommend for ensuring continuity, especially like for our listeners who might be facing a transition soon?
So we have many tools. On the sales side, we have CRMs that will make sure that if a salesperson changes and a new person takes over any kind of relationship from an account manager perspective or sales, all the information is there. We have other tools like Workday, Jira, and so on that we use to make sure that the whole user stories or requirement documents, depending on some people prefer Agile while others prefer the old waterfall methodologies and so on, or DevOps. So we follow different tools and methodologies to support the knowledge continuity and sharing for these different areas and different expertise that we require.
Okay. And what about the case of like very long projects? Say like it's like a long spanning years. Do you rotate people proactively to spread the knowledge?
So Wasinee, rotation solves 2 problems. One, obviously, is to make sure that you have more people with the same knowledge of the project. But in 2, 3, 5-year projects, there's project fatigue. Project fatigue also is a big risk within our projects. So rotation helps with project fatigue as well as knowledge sharing and continuity. So it's a very normal practice that we do, rotating PMs, rotating business analysts. And so once again, a larger skill group or larger set of people within NETSOL will have that understanding of the customer's business and requirements.
Okay, Farooq, last question today. I assume leadership support matters a lot. So managers should prioritize knowledge capture. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think it goes above the managers. It goes to the culture of the company and to senior management. And if the culture is cost-cutting, if the culture is not to have backups, not to have proper documentation tools, then you will see the effect and your customers will see the effect. And it's not just NETSOL. NASA also follows knowledge continuity, knowledge sharing, and all those things that we're trying to instill as well.
Yeah, well said. I think in asset finance, the mission might be a successful system go live or a smooth process rollout, which is mission critical for the business. This has been very insightful, Farooq. Talking about planning ahead, create backups for knowledge, use documentation and culture to your advantage. So I appreciate your time today and thank you very much for this insightful session.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Wasinee.
Please stay tuned for our next podcast session. Thank you.